welcome to this not episode of The Lonely Knitter. My name is Laura, and if you have watched before, you'll know I do normally a knitting podcast all about my knitting things. Instead, I am sitting here in my messy kitchen for something else. I wanted to talk a little bit about how I drop a stitch, pull it back and fix the stitch and then zip back up with a crochet hook. I don't need to do it with a crochet hook, you can do it with a knitting needle. It's a little bit more fiddly, but a crochet hook is my tool of choice for this. This is inspired by Geordie Knits Podcast. She is running a FlaxAlong, running January through till the end of March. So it is a 3-month time frame to knit a flax of any age and knit along with her, and she has prizes. I thought I would join in. I just finished a flax which I will be showing in my podcast that will go up either Sunday night or Monday morning, and I was so inspired by her knit along that I thought I would cast on one for my toddler. So here it is, and someone in the group had talked about how they were knitting their sleeve. So this is the flax sleeve, and the flax is a free pattern by Tin Can Knits. So they were knitting their sleeve, and the pattern has this garter panel that runs down a section of each sleeve. She had, instead of just using the garter on this panel, she had used it on the entire sleeve. This was something I could totally relate to because when I knit my first flax, I did exactly the same thing. For me, I just didn't read the instructions. I just thought, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and ploughed on. So when I realised what I had done, I then had to decide how to fix it, and I didn't fancy ripping back. I didn't realise it was on the adult large size, and I didn't realise what I had done until I had got to the sleeve separation, and I was like, I don't want to rip it all out and start again. So instead what I did was go onto the sleeve and one by one drop a stitch, pull it all back, and then zip it back up in stockinette rather than the garter. And someone in the Knit Along group mentioned that they'd done that, and I thought maybe I would film a video to show you how I did it, so that you could do it that way if you wanted to too. I know there will be tons of videos on YouTube that tell you how to do this. This is just my take on it, and it might be very, very similar to a lot of other people, and if it is, feel free to go and find theirs instead, so I'm sure it'll be much more professional. I'm sitting here in my PJs. Well, this isn't actually my PJs, this is like a snuggly top from Next, which is really old. But I have worked a 8.5-hour shift and come home, entertained a toddler and put a toddler to bed. So I'm here in my PJs. My kitchen is a mess, but I'm knitting. So I'll just have a little go, see what you think, and if it's not for you, fair enough. This is my first go at knitting, like showing any kind of how-to, so maybe it won't go well and this video will just be on my phone forever, never to be uploaded. Okay, here we are. Here is my knitting. Here is my crochet hook. This crochet hook is probably a little small because I am working with an Aran weight yarn, but make do. So we're going to lose a stitch. So this is a good way to fix as well. If you've just dropped a stitch off your needle and it's run a little way, you can fix that right up. So let's pull these up so we don't lose any more stitches. But we're going to let this stitch run. So there we go. Let's run back a few rows. We're going to fix it knitwise first. So we're going to zhuzh it back up to the top. We go pick up that stitch with your crochet hook. Now you can see all these bars, which are the loops of yarn between this fine stitch and, this fine stitch, and you just take your crochet hook, dip under the first loop and pull it through your stitch. So Then we're going to dip under the next bar and pull it through your stitch, under the next bar, pull it through, under the next bar, pull it through, then pop your stitch back on the needle and you're all good, and that will even itself out. There we go. If you want to fix on the reverse so that you get a purl line of stitches up the front of your work, you can drop off that stitch there, these off so we don't lose any more, and let it run. Now we're going to fix this so that it has the knit stitches on the back of the work and the purl stitches on the front. So we pick up our stitch. Here it is. This is a little bit of a sticky yarn because we've got, I think this is wool and alpaca, and it likes to stick to itself. So we're going to do exactly the same thing here on the back of the work. So we are just going to go under that first bar and pull it through the stitch, under the next bar, pull it through, under the next bar, pull it through, under the next bar, pull it through. So you can see you have a neat line of knit stitches here on the back, and when you pop that back on the needle, when you flip round to the front, you'll be able to see there's some purl bumps. Now with the flax, it has the garter panel on each sleeve, and when I didn't read the instructions properly, because it is a very clear pattern, I didn't read the instructions properly and I garter panelled the entire sleeve. I was already at the sleeve separation when I realised this, and rather than go all the way back and rip it all out and start again, I was like, nah, having none of that. So I dropped back those sleeve stitches that needed to be just knit up and put them back as I first showed you. If, however, you want to make the garter panel on the outside, maybe you've forgotten to do it, maybe you've made a mistake earlier on and you want to pull your work back in just those areas to give yourself that garter panel, which is made by knitting around and then purling around because we're working in the round. What you can do is drop your stitch back, and I want to make that garter panel pattern again. So say I want to purl stitch first. I go, let's get rid of these for a sec. Find my stitch, there it is, it's sitting there nicely. I go underneath the first bar that we're going to want to pull through our stitch. I then go through my stitch. So on the crochet hook, I have first my stitch and then my bar. Now I want that bar to be in front of the stitch, so I'm just going to pull it over the top there. So we now have the bar and the stitch. And then I want that bar to go through the stitch as it did on the other ways. But this bit can be a bit fiddly, so I quite often feel the need to help it over. There we go, there's your purl bump. Then, that's sat on there nicely. Put my crochet hook into the front of that stitch and find the next bar and work it knitwise. There we go, so now we have a knit, a purl, a knit. Then make sure that stitch is sat there nicely. Go under the next bar, into my stitch, and now we have again the stitch and the bar. We want that bar to be on the other side of the stitch in front of it. So now we have the bar, the stitch. Now the word bar doesn't feel right. And with this, I always need to help it over because I'm not great with a crochet hook or knitting needles, apparently. Here we go. So bar, stitch, and sometimes I have to help it over, but we want to pull that bar through the stitch. There we go. So we have a purl. Next, knit needles getting in the way. We're going to do a knit one. There we go. And lastly, we want to do a purl one. So that stitch is nice and secure. We're going under here, we're going into our stitch. Here we have again, stitch, bar. Make sure the bar is in the front. So bar, stitch, and then pull it through. And then as you can see, we have purl, knit, purl, which is the pattern you will need for that panel if you wanted to drop back one of those stitches. So that was the most stressful thing I've ever done. Not sure any more of those are going to be happening anytime soon. I'm going to go and knit on my flax to try and chill myself out. But if you haven't done it already and you fancy knitting a flax, even if it's only a baby one or a flax light, doesn't have to be the normal flax, then head over to the Geordie Knits podcast and watch her there, because she is fabulous and she will give you all of the details. She has a Facebook group and Instagram tags and Ravelry, and get on it, people. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got this far, I'm sorry if it was awful. Not a pro, definitely an amateur. And I will see you on my next podcast. And as ever, you guys are making me so much less of a lonely knitter. Bye.